therapist thinks I need medical support for anxiety, but I have a now documented heart problem condition doctors once ignored. So today I am asking, why is anxiety rational? On Friday, my therapist and I had a conversation regarding my anxiety levels. I mentioned that it's been difficult to sleep for weeks. And as we unpacked this, it turned out it hadn't been weeks, it had been months. And this was also in conjunction with high levels of anxiety. Around Christmas time, it got really cold here and dark and snowy, and the ground was covered with ice. And indoors, you could feel the drafts coming through the windows. And I found myself with this heightened sense of tension, which I associated with that kind of clenching you get when it's cold and you're just kind of holding yourself close to keep whatever warmth you can generate near you. It's also that same feeling that's a result of wearing several layers of clothing. I mean, you've got your undergarments, then you've got a t-shirt, then you've got a turtleneck, then you've got a sweater, a dress over the sweater that's made of wool. And that's just sitting inside along with wearing a comfy scarf. So I was feeling kind of repressed and a little claustrophobic all the time. At the same time, it was December, and my treat to myself was several weeks of sewing. I I had a sewing bonanza. Maybe it wasn't even several weeks. I think it was probably actually only 10 days. But I just let myself sew. I didn't think about work. I didn't think about my PhD. I didn't think about my children. I just let myself sew, and it was incredibly blissful to have the entire flat covered with garments which were in progress. The garment rack was covered with three exquisite, complicated dresses that I have had patterns for more than a year, but could not just calm down enough and let go enough to let myself sew. So I got these patterns out, and I went to the Christmas party for my sewing group, and I was jubilant, I thought. But in reality, there was a high degree of anxiety related even to that. Getting myself out of the house to even go was a problem. It was a problem because I had nervousness, I had anxiety about what do I pack? What do I bring with me? I had made German chocolate cake, and I was worried that it wasn't going to be enough. So that I was scrambling around thinking, oh, okay, where do I pick up this and where do I pick up that? And then just getting exhausted from all the thoughts that I had about all the things that I needed to do. So finally, I called a friend. We joined forces and we went to the Christmas hot pot party. And there I spent the evening cutting out these these pattern pieces for making these beautiful dresses. And so for me, the takeaway had been I did something that I wanted to do for a year. I pushed through internal resistance and I did it. When I was reflecting back with my therapist that everything is incredibly difficult and arduous. Even fun things are difficult, give me tension, give me itching skin, that I was just blaming the weather on. In reflection to someone in that capacity, in a therapeutic capacity, it became obvious that this wasn't okay, that this one great triumphant example that I thought um, exemplified how great I'm doing was actually testament to how hard of a time I'm having. So we started talking about what all of this anxiety feels like, and how in the past 4 weeks now, it's come to a point where I find myself waking up at night, if I've even managed to go to sleep. The night that it really kicked off, that it really started, I found that I was waking up just as I was falling asleep. And it was like waking up in this hypervigilant state. I was really aware of everything around me, and then just staying aware and not being able to close back down and succumb to sleep. So then I started noticing the sounds in the hall would wake me up. The in the hallway, I live in a building with quite thick walls. I can't recall ever hearing anyone else doing anything. And there's people with children across the hall, upstairs, downstairs, everywhere. But for the first time, I found that I was hearing people walking down the steps. I was hearing them coughing in the courtyard, and it's winter. The windows aren't open. This isn't uh, this isn't something that's seasonal noise. This is odd. And then I noticed I was starting to feel worried that, oh no, is someone coming in the apartment? Who's in the hallway in my apartment? Well, I know who's in the hallway in my apartment. That's never been a thing. But I was worked up about it, and it was something that would keep me awake at night, to the extent that I started locking my bedroom door because I thought, okay, then I can relax. That didn't do it either. That just made me feel claustrophobic, like under all those layers of wool, and then now boxed behind a door. And this continued for a week or two. And I thought to myself, yeah, I remember what I did last time this happened. Last time this happened, I went to the hospital and I'm like, I'm not well. I hypervigilant. I can't unwind. The smallest noises bother me. And I stayed in the hospital for 5 weeks and had a rest. But I didn't want to do that again. I didn't want to do that again because I don't know who to trust. Um, and this is the question that formed between my therapist and I. I trust my therapist, and my therapist trusts me to make the best decisions for me. At the same time, it became apparent first to him and then to me through conversation that moment where I thought, last time I felt like this, and it was less intense than this time, I went to hospital. I really, I was taken aback. I thought, but I'm doing amazing. I go to the gym 3 to 5 times a week. I meditate every morning. I meditate every evening. I eat 70% vegetables. I probably eating about 100 grams to 150 grams of protein most days. I drink raw vegetable juices that I make myself. I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't even do caffeine. And this has always been my life, though. Uh, so these things are going on, and yet I'm still feeling this anxious. I'm still feeling this disassociated. It's not a psychosis, it's just incredibly disassociated. Um, and I'm also well aware of the idea that when I think about the amount of yoga that I do, the amount of meditation that I do, the amount of breath work that I do, and then I look around me at how other people exercise and how other people maintain their health. I know people that look forward to their once a week yoga class and say they feel jazzed for days from the tension relief of that. I'm like, what? I do my yoga in the morning at daybreak and I feel buzzed from it for a couple of hours. You could say maybe this is a high saturation effect. Maybe my tolerance is astronomical from doing this for 40 odd years. But no, this is the way yogis practice. We don't just go to a class once a week. And I belong to a category of people who live more intensely. I like the submersion. You haven't really done yoga until you've done it 5 days a week. That's where you really, really get the effects. That's where the transformation, the union of mind and body, yoga, yoking, union is the translation of the word. So I thought, I wish I could be like them. I wish going to a class at the gym did it for me. I wished I could do things less intensely. And so, what I'm saying is that having a healthy lifestyle, having a healthy relationship with the universe, God, whatever you call it, that does not change mental illness. It doesn't change the sickness. So, as we continued talking, and we established verbally that we both trust one another's judgment, I accepted, I recognized the problem. I accepted that the problem has to be solved. That first step is sleep. And because of the severity of the problem, that has to be achieved through sleeping pills or something. I take melatonin sometimes, and it has the opposite effect on me. I don't have a usual nervous system. Things affect me differently. So the feeling of taking melatonin and wanting to sleep, desiring to sleep, being desperate to sleep, and instead being edgy and wired is one of the most nightmarish experience. That stresses me out more than the sleep problem is stressing me out. So my therapist told me that I have to find a doctor, go talk to my doctor, tell her I'm having problems sleeping, take something for the sleep, and also talk about medication for the anxiety. And in the past, medication and me don't get along well. Often the effects stop after the first couple of weeks. You know, some medications take months to really get into your system. And so when I say it stops after the first couple of weeks, I'm saying like once we've gone past this initial phase of building up levels in the blood and the brain adjusting to this newcomer of information, the effects come and then they go for me. So the last time I was in the hospital, I was in a psychosomatic clinic, a wonderful clinic, really. Like beautiful garden, amazing fellow patients. Like I'm still friends with people from there. They were some of the most inspiring, energetic people I have ever met. And I guess that says a little bit something about what many of us were going through. And yeah, maybe a bit about some of the people that have these kinds of intensities. And the other side of the intensity is that all things are intense, perhaps. I don't know. I'm not even speculating. Um, but yeah, the last time I was in the hospital, they figured that out. They figured out that there's just something about my nervous system that doesn't like it. My therapist, fully aware of this, having the notes from my last medical stay, was explaining that there's another category of medication that is not long acting, has instant effects, and is also not addictive. So there's no dependency formed on it. And now that I recognize that how I'm feeling is not okay, the idea of taking something that can help me come down from this is a really good idea. I'm totally on board for it. And this afternoon, I have an appointment with a doctor where we're going to talk about it, and hopefully, she can prescribe something that does this for me. But I'm nervous. Here, there are lots of different categories of doctors, and I was under the impression that my doctor could not issue this kind of prescription. And I think that's because in the past she would not issue this type of prescription for me. She preferred it went through a specialist. So I went to a psychiatrist, I went to sleep disorder clinic. Um, and so I'm nervous about going. I'm not sure that anything is going to happen. And I also really don't feel like going. Last night's sleep was not good. I have been trying sleep hypnosis videos uh, in the days leading up to this appointment, because the other option would have been going to an emergency room for psychiatric help, because that's how bad it is when you've not slept properly in 4 weeks. You really do need help regulation. And that would mean staying in the hospital for a couple of days. That would be the nuclear option. And for me, I don't feel comfortable or safe doing that, which is a real tragedy. It's a tragedy because of another medical issue. In the past, I have had lots of panic attacks, or what I thought were panic attacks, what I was told were panic attacks by doctors. I have sometimes had to call ambulances about these panic attacks. And then the report gets back to my house arts, my primary care physician, and we talk about next steps. And the next steps always were antidepressants, pain management clinics, everything other than investigating my heart. So for 10 years, I've been going to doctors and being told I had panic attacks, even in my last hospitalization when I had these attacks and told staff about it. these were deemed panic attacks, but they were labeled as panic attacks without any cardiological investigation. Even in the ambulances, up until a year and a half ago, when it was really crazy and I was losing consciousness, my body was cold, which is something that happens with heart irregular pacing. But this time, the paramedics took me to the hospital. I actually have even gone into emergency rooms, but without them checking my heart and just dismissing this as being panic attacks. So I don't trust it. I don't trust doctors so much. I don't trust hospitals the way that I did. I really trusted them for 10 years, that I was stuffed with pills and painkillers and belief that if I worked harder, tried harder, put more effort into it, I would be able to end these. But they haven't ended because it's a cardiological issue. I believed this to the extent that with my therapist, who I've been with for a few years now, I was describing myself as having panic attacks several times a day. In fact, I was having heart issues several times a day. And because I had described it as panic attacks and used that language, he assumed that that's what they were. But I had been given this language by doctors, and having been given this language rather than investigation and treatment, I was putting nails in my own coffin, but they were the nails that they were handing me. So when I had an episode and asked my friends to call an ambulance one day when we were out at a market, and the paramedics came and they put heart monitors on me, immediately went to hospital. I had surgery quite quickly because it was a heart problem. So I've been going through a lot with doctors and being denied service, being denied medical records. But now I need doctors, and I have a therapist that I trust, and I have a house arts that I trust. And when she found out that what I had been describing as panic attacks were words that I'd been given by other doctors who hadn't investigated, I was in her office one day last month in December. Oh, no, that's not last month anymore. That's 2 months ago. Um, and as I was sitting there with her, I was having an episode, and I had normalized these episodes to the extent that I just walk around having them. You know, the first operation only fixed the problem partially. The second procedure, they couldn't stimulate the problem, so there was no correction. And since the second procedure, I have been experiencing severe racism from the receptionist and technician at the cardiological clinic that I was going to, highly reputable clinic. I've been screamed at and told I don't belong here. I've been screamed at and told that that's their device and they decide what happens with it, and it's not my business. In front of witnesses, I've taken advocates with me to even get those records released to go to my cardiologist. I finally had to get a lawyer. So when I was in the hospital last, and the hospital I was in wanted to do surgery on me, they contacted this other hospital, and a hospital asking, were not given my records. And that's around the time that sleep became a real problem. It became a real problem when I was in the hospital. And So the idea of going to a hospital to get help with sleep regulation when hospitals have told me I'm anxious and not treated me, it terrifies me. I'm really, really scared of that. I don't want to do that. And my therapist doesn't want me to be in there. Um, he's happiest if this just works out by going to a doctor. So I'm not refusing care, I'm refusing erasure, and I'm hoping for the best. And we'll just see what happens.